While in jail, TJ had written the word killer across a white t-shirt by hand, trying to recreate the shirt that he wore on the day of the shooting.
Kill yourself, please. Actually, don't kill yourself because I want you to rot in prison.
Feeling that he looked incredibly cool, his attitude quickly turned cocky. TJ then decided to make a statement to the families of the victims. He looked at them, flipped them off, and said,
"Sin pull the trigger to kill your son, masturbates to memory of you."
He said, this hand that pulled the trigger to kill your son now to his memory. That's disgusting. To say that to the family?
TJ was then booked into the Allen Correctional Facility.
I'm just gonna say, I hope this drops the soap.
It was soon after his arrival that several of the inmates ganged up on him and all had their way with him at once.
Hello, YouTube. In today's video, we are back with Dire Trip for another rage bait inducing true crime video today. You want to know why I know that? Look at the perpetrator's face in the thumbnail. He's smirking in the courtroom at the victim's family after he killed them, I think. The title of today's video is A Vile School Shooter and His Wild Life in Prison. Yeah, and then he also looks like Sid from Toy Story. Wait, hold on. Nah. If you look like Sid from Toy Story, you're just not a good person. I already know it. You're just like born to have an insufferable personality. So anyway, that's about all I can say. I don't know what school shooting he committed. Yeah, like I said, I just don't know that much information about this case besides the fact that he laughs in the courtroom. Let's get into this video. I'm gonna shut up now.
When people carry out a violent attack on a school, more often than not, they don't live to tell the tale. This story is different in that the perpetrator's story didn't end with his crime, or even his prison sentence, as he continued to have high-profile, national news-level incidents even after.
Right.
It's no secret that most people who carry out school shootings, or even mass shootings in general, never make it out alive. This is usually either by choice or as a result of a shootout with the police.
Yeah, because they're always big, fat pussies that don't want to face the consequences of their actions and be shamed by society, so they escape the easy way.
On the extremely rare occasion that one does make it out alive, we get a very rare look into how their lives play out afterwards and how differently the people come to see them. This story is definitely one of those, so let's start at the beginning. Thomas Michael T.J. Lane III was born on September 19, 1994. He had his father, Thomas Lane, his mother, Sarah Nolan, his older half-brother, Adam Nolan, and his younger sister, Sadie Lane. By all accounts, he had a fairly rough upbringing. Both of his parents had been hit with domestic violence charges against each other before, and that wasn't going to stop after his birth.
An unfortunate reality in a lot of these cases, and I say unfortunate because it does make you understand a little bit where things started to go wrong for the child that went on to commit an atrocity such as a school shooting. They always seem to have rough childhoods, like a broken household, abusive parents, lots of violence in the house. Even if the violence wasn't targeted at the children, if your parents are always fighting with each other, screaming, throwing things, it creates a very chaotic environment for you. If your brain becomes accustomed to these chaotic environments while developing, in those crucial years especially, you're going to develop a very unstable, chaotic state of mind. Like, you're not going to grow up very, I don't know, peaceful.
By all accounts, he had a fairly rough upbringing. Both of his parents had been hit with domestic violence charges against each other before, and that wasn't going to stop after his birth. Very early on, TJ's mother Sarah ended up in jail on her own domestic violence charge, given that she was already on probation for a charge related to a different violent crime. She was known to be an alcoholic and would be extremely volatile while drinking, so this was somewhat of a constant in her life. Thomas Lane then applied for custody of TJ himself. However, this doesn't mean that he was a good father by any means. In September of 1997, Thomas was arrested on his own domestic violence charge. This was after he threw a TV dinner at Sarah, along with some garbage he found around the house, and shoved her. When the police showed up, Thomas attempted to run. In doing so, he kicked one officer in the balls and punched another in the throat.
Who's Thomas? Okay, this is the dad. Okay, this is the dad.
The officers had to pepper spray him and beat him to the ground to get him to let up. He was eventually caught and hit with further charges of resisting arrest and assault. Sarah Nolan didn't live with her kids from there on out. Some of the neighbors who lived across the street from their small home said that they never saw the kids outside, playing, or behaving as normal children. Eventually, they moved and left the house abandoned. Sometime in 1997, Thomas met and married another woman named Julie Gray. In April of 2002, Thomas was once again arrested after beating her severely and sending her to the hospital.
Holy
She had
haircut.
been calling about a job application, which led to him assuming that she was cheating on him. He was charged with 1 count of attempted murder, 1 of felonious assault, 1 of kidnapping, and 1 of disrupting public services. For that, he served time in prison.
Okay, so he definitely was not a good father to his children. All right, very, very, very wonderful role model right there.
TJ went to stay with his grandparents on his mother's side, Jack and Carol Nolan. Eventually, they got custody of him and his siblings. However, things immediately started falling apart in this home as well, as the police were called out to the home multiple times to deal with TJ's older brother, Adam's rampant drug use. TJ somehow managed to function fairly normally for a while. Especially in middle school, he was said to have had a pretty average social life and a good number of friends.
Okay, so remember that TJ is the name of this child that I assume grows up to do the shooting.
One of these friends, Evan Erasmus, later said that he was pretty quiet, but very nice if you reached out to him, adding, "He just came from a really broken down home and he was living with his grandparents. He was one of the nicest kids here." Things started to change when TJ went on to high school, attending Chardon High School in Chardon, Ohio. He slowly started to distance himself from his friends in middle school with no clear reason as to why. TJ later said himself that he couldn't find anyone else with similar interests to him and that this made him feel like an outcast. Several other students have said that he was bullied at school fairly often. One student, Danny Comert, said that he was an outcast who had been bullied. Another, Toralyn Lacasse, who considered herself to be a friend of TJ, said that he was picked on regularly at school and built up a wall around himself, adding that he was reluctant to share anything about his personal life.
That's another very common red flag in all of these youth shooters. Antisocial behavior. They claim to have been ostracized by their peers, bullied. Are they always telling the truth? Sometimes these people lie. Like sometimes they literally fabricate reality so that it justifies their actions, so that it justifies their shooting.
Adding that he was reluctant to share anything about his personal life. Still, students didn't really feel that anything was off with him. One student named Damian Stewart said that he would respond if spoken to, but just wouldn't speak much himself. He said, "He could have really gone far because he was so smart. He just didn't really want to talk. He would talk but wouldn't say a lot. He was a pretty cool kid." Another student, Rachel Reed, said much of the same, adding, "He was quiet, but he wasn't creepy quiet. He wasn't mean. He wasn't evil." There were other students who said that TJ wasn't bullied, however. One of them was Danny Comertz, who said, "Even though he was quiet, he still had friends. He was not bullied."
See, that's what I'm saying. Like, I swear in all of these cases, whenever bullying gets brought up as one of the reasons why they ended up being antisocial, there's always conflicting evidence or conflicting reports of like, oh, they were bullied. No, they weren't. They were actually well liked by the student body. Yeah, so it's just like, I don't know, man. I don't know.
Even though he was quiet, he still had friends. He was not bullied. While TJ may have appeared normal at school, the same couldn't have been said about his home life. TJ's neighbors at his grandparents' home felt that he was a little off. The neighbors rarely ever saw him, only speaking with him very briefly on a small handful of occasions. One neighbor described him by, "Very sullen, always in a hoodie in the middle of the summer. Didn't look at you. Everybody says quiet, but I'd say sullen, knowing where he came from, a split family." In December 9th, 2009, when TJ was about 15 years old, the police were called to his grandparents' home in the Munson Township. His grandparents were away from home that night, leaving TJ's aunt and uncle there to keep tabs on TJ's older brother Adam. While Adam was older, he did have the previously mentioned problems with drugs and his behavior. That night, the aunt and uncle called the police after Adam started to behave in an erratic and violent manner. He was scheduled to go to rehab for a heroin addiction in only a few days, but he had snapped before that time came.
Damn, so every male role model TJ could have had, they were all just messed up. So like the dad was violent, and I mean we all saw what he did. It was very insane. And but even his older brother Adam, drug addict, he was hooked on heroin. I mean, now you have this. He's crashing out after he did some drugs.
Sheriff's deputies came out to the home and defused the whole situation, or at least they thought they did. After the police left, Adam got into another scuffle with his uncle. This time, TJ threw himself into the battle as well, putting his uncle into a chokehold while Adam beat him, briefly joining Adam and punching him. TJ had always been very close to Adam, and it seems he wanted to go to his defense. Their aunt called the police out to the home once again, and this time the deputies threw Adam and TJ into handcuffs and arrested them. They were both taken to juvenile detention and charged with assault. TJ pleaded true, which was the juvenile equivalent of guilty, and that got him a lesser charge of disorderly conduct. With that, he was sentenced very lightly, getting only 24 hours of community service. TJ would come into mild contact with the law one more time when he was charged with failure to control a motor vehicle. He was ordered to pay a fine and complete a juvenile driving class. His license was then suspended for 75 days. Eventually, TJ began attending an alternative high school, that being Lake Academy in the nearby town of Willoughby, in his sophomore year. Also known as the Lake County Educational Service Center, it was a very small center that only had about 55 students in total at the time. Students were referred there for either academic or behavioral problems. Still, he had regular contact with Chardon High. He would take a bus out to Chardon early in the morning, then take another bus from there later on that would take him to Lake Academy. It has been said that at one point, TJ started dating a girl at Chardon High School who has never been publicly named. One student who knew them both said, she saw something she liked in him that others didn't see. TJ and the girl reportedly went on to date for several months before breaking up in late 2011. It was said that she then began dating another student at Chardon, a boy named Russell King Jr., shortly after. TJ gave a brief glimpse into his mindset at the time with a rant in the form of a poem that he posted to Facebook. On December 30th, 2011, he wrote, "In a time long since, a time of repent, the Renaissance, in a quaint lonely town sits a man with a frown. No job, no family, no crown. His luck had run out, lost and alone. The streets were his home. His thoughts would solely consist of, why do we exist? His only company to confide in was the vermin in the street. He longed for only one thing, the world to bow at his feet. They too should feel his secret fear, the dismal drear. His pain had made him sincere. He was better than the rest, all those who he detests, within their castles, so vain."
Okay, so now you're starting to see even more big red flags in this poem that he wrote after his girl left him. He's narcissistic. He thinks lowly of himself. It's weird. Yeah, those two things always pair together with these fuckers. They're narcissistic, but at the same time, they have like these inferiority complexes. Oh, that's the other thing that's like so fucked about these people. They're an eternal victim. So everything is justified because once again, the victim can do no wrong, right? Like I'm the victim. People like I'm lonely, I'm whatever. Anything I do goes. And then when he does these horrible things, he can once again cry victim and then at the same time be like, hell yeah, like I'm above you, like I'm better than you guys. You guys are just lowly humans.
Selfish and conceited. They couldn't care less about the peasants they mistreated. They were in their own world. It was a joyous one too. That castle, she stood just to do all she could to keep the peasants at bay, not the enemy away. They had no enemies in their filthy orgy. And in her, the castle's every story was just another chamber of Lucifer's laboratory. The world is a sandbox for all the wretched sinners. They simply create what they want and make themselves the winners. But the true winner has nothing at all. Enduring the pain of waiting for that castle to fall, through his good deeds, the rats and the fleas, he will have for what he pleads, through the eradication of disease. So to the castle he proceeds, like an ominous breeze through the trees. "Stay back," the guards screamed as they were thrown to their knees. "Oh, have mercy, please." The castle, she gasped and then so imprisoned her breath to the shallow confines of her fragile chest. "I'm on the lamb, but I ain't no sheep. I am death. And you have always been the sod, so repulsive and so odd. You never even deserved the presence of God, and yet I am here. Around your cradle I plod. Come on foot without shod. How improper, how rude. However, they shall not mind the mud on my feet if there is blood on your sheet. Now, feel death, not just mocking you, not just stalking you, but inside of you. Wriggle and writhe. Feel smaller beneath my might. Seizure in the pestilence that is my scythe. Die, all of you." This poem didn't really offer any specific insights into his life, but
Holy
many
hair.
people felt that they could infer some details about how he was feeling by reading between the lines.
Holy hair.
Mainly, people took concern with the final "die, all of you" comment. About a month later, TJ added a follow-up comment on the post after getting 4 likes and 2 shares. He wrote, "Much obliged to all who liked this. Wrote it in class myself one day." According to other students at Chardon, Russell King, who was now dating TJ's ex-girlfriend, told his friends that he was in love with her and crazy about her. In a bit of teenage jealousy, he would sometimes make jokes about her ex, that being TJ. These would usually consist of name-calling, but would sometimes also include threats to beat him up as well.
So this is where the beef is gonna start. I'm gonna assume when TJ does the school shooting, I'm gonna assume one of his primary targets is gonna be that Russell King dude that stole his girl.
TJ, in response, told others that he was going to start working out and learning how to fight so that he would be able to beat Russell up himself. He started out thin, almost to a frail degree, but he did build up some muscle mass after training for a while. He posted a few pictures of his workout progress online, flexing so hard that he was about to prolapse. TJ
What the fuck? Dire trip, what the fuck? Flexing so hard he's about to prolapse. Like what, his asshole? Is that what he means? That's the only time I ever hear the word prolapse. It's like he's flexing so hard his asshole is gonna flip inside out.
TJ, hoping to win his ex-girlfriend back, reportedly bought a very large teddy bear to give her on Valentine's Day, a couple of months after they had broken up and she was dating someone else. He was seen in a couple of photographs with the bear. It isn't known if he ever actually gave it to her, or if he did, what her reaction was. What we do know is that it was around this time that, according to TJ himself, he went downhill very quickly. He evidently began planning for an attack on his school. Keeping up with the tradition of mass shooters wearing t-shirts with some sort of text across the front that they feel embodies their personality, TJ bought one that said "killer" in capital letters across the chest on February 20th.
Bruh.
One day later, he sent a text to his younger sister Sadie, who also went to Chardon High School, about school shootings in general. This message has never leaked, but it was said to have not been about himself committing a shooting specifically. It was said to have been something vague that wouldn't have been alarming to most. Unlike many mass shooters, TJ Lane didn't seem to plan all that much for his upcoming attack. He didn't write a journal, he didn't leave a trail of hints behind him, and he didn't have much of an online presence. To most, he seemed to act the same as he always had. In his mind, he likely didn't need to plan much. He already knew where he could get a gun. He knew that his uncle had a .22 caliber Ruger Mark III. He and his siblings had even used it for target practice in the woods behind his grandparents' home before. On February 26th, less than a week after buying his killer t-shirt, TJ set out to steal that very gun from his uncle. He got into his desk and took the gun with him, along with 2 magazines and some extra ammunition. At his grandparents' place, he put the gun and ammo into his backpack, all ready to carry out an attack on his school the very next day. With that, he had fully prepared himself in less than a week. Now there was nothing left to do but get some sleep and wait for the next day to come.
Okay. Alright. Oh shit, here we go.
February 27th, 2012. TJ woke up before the sun came up, knowing what he was going to do that day. At around 6:55 a.m., he hopped onto the school bus at a stop near his grandparents' house. Little did anyone know, he was carrying the Ruger, the ammunition, and a knife in his backpack. It only took him about 20 minutes to get to the school. At 7:15 a.m., TJ hopped off the bus and made his way into Chardon High School. Despite usually heading straight into the cafeteria to wait for his next bus to Lake Academy, he spent an unusual amount of time waiting outside the school in the cold, snowy weather. TJ eventually made his way inside just before 7:30 a.m. and went into the men's bathroom for a while. He then sat down at an empty table in the cafeteria. He quietly sat to himself, covertly watching the other students in the room. With the bus to Lake Academy coming soon, he was left with little choice but to attack Chardon now. If he missed his bus and stuck around at a school he didn't attend, he would definitely raise eyebrows. One student in the cafeteria at the time, named Nate Mueller, was sitting only a few feet away from him. He said of TJ, he was silent the entire time. At 7:36, after sitting around for a short while, TJ abruptly stood up at his table. He pulled the handgun out of his bag and walked over to a nearby table full of students. Sitting at this table was the boy he hated most, Russell King Jr.
Fucking called it. No, yeah, I knew it. I knew this Russell King guy was gonna be a primary target. Not just a primary one. It might be his first kill. Yeah, since he, I mean, in his head, stole his girlfriend.
Sitting at this table was the boy he hated most, Russell King Jr. Nate Mueller said, "There was no warning or anything. He just opened fire." Quiet, with no expression on his face, he pulled up his gun and aimed it at the back of Russell's head. The surveillance camera in the cafeteria filmed as he pulled the trigger, shooting him at near point-blank range.
Oh, man. So, oh, dude, rest in peace to him, dude. Rest in peace to Russell. But, like the footage is out there of just a straight-up execution.
The surveillance camera in the cafeteria filmed as he pulled the trigger, shooting him at near point-blank range. Danny Comertz, the student who knew TJ, later said, "I looked up and this kid was pointing a gun about 10 feet away from me at a group of 4 kids sitting at a table. One was kind of like hiding, trying to get underneath the table, trying to hide, protecting his face." Another student who was sitting with Russell, 16-year-old Daniel Parmiter, tried to get down and take cover under the table. TJ quickly aimed towards him and shot him in the back of the head. Nate Mueller, who had seen TJ sitting quietly only minutes before, said, "My friends were crawling on the floor, and one of my friends was bent over the table, and he was shot. It was almost like a firecracker went off. I turned around and saw him standing with a gun, and I saw him take a shot." Then, 16-year-old Demetrius Hewlin quickly made a move to make a run for it. TJ then turned the gun towards him, shooting him in the head and chest before he could make it away from the table.
He was on a fucking mission to kill. Like, he was not wasting any time. Every kill, every victim, straight headshot. I feel like in most of these cases, they're kind of just shooting sporadically. Like, okay, as long as I shoot the target, that's really all they try to do. And if they fall to the ground, then they finish the job. But this kid was straight going to heads.
TJ then turned the gun towards him, shooting him in the head and chest before he could make it away from the table.
Like, he was for real making sure your ass was dead.
TJ's younger sister, Sadie, like any other day, was in the school herself. Hearing what was going on, she took off running from the scene and hid under some tables. She had no idea who the shooter was, but she didn't suspect her own brother one bit. Shortly after, she made her way into the teacher's lounge and hid, fearing for her life. Many students began to try to run out of the cafeteria, either making their way into the halls of the school or out the exit doors on the side. TJ, seeing this, began to open fire on the students as they fled. He hit 17-year-old Nick Walchak in his arm, his neck, and ultimately in his spine. Nate Mueller had made a run for it as well. On his way out, TJ fired at him, the bullet hitting a portion of his ear and barely missing his head. It was now...
Dude, he's going for straight-up executions on these kids, dude.
Barely missing his head.
Thank God he survived.
It was now 7:38 a.m. and all of the students had run out of the cafeteria. Not satisfied to end the attack here, TJ exited the cafeteria and made his way towards the main hallways of the school. It was here that he spotted an 18-year-old student named Joy Brickers as she attempted to get out. He shot her in the butt as she ran. It was around that moment that many different calls began to flood into the police dispatch center.
Hopefully she survived.
911, where's your emergency?
We just had a shooting at our school. We need to get out of here. Oh my
Okay,
God.
okay, ma'am, we got a school shooting. Ma'am, what school?
Chardon High School.
Chardon High School?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, can you go get the administration? Okay,
Everyone's running away, so
where's the student with the gun?
I don't know. He was in the cafeteria and everyone just started running.
Do you see the shooter?
No, I didn't. I just felt like the gun.
Okay, did you see the gun?
Yeah.
It's sad to hear phone calls like this and to know that nothing has changed, bro. I want to remind y'all, this is 2012. It's 2026 now. 14 years, a decade and a half almost, and nothing has changed really. In fact, we've only had more shootings. We've only had more 911 phone calls like that, 911 recordings like that. They haven't gone away. If anything, they've increased in frequency. America, wake the fuck up.
At the same time, the school was going into lockdown. One student, the previously mentioned Evan Erasmus, said, "All of a sudden, all the doors started slamming. You could hear them slam. And we turned off all the lights, and we headed towards the corner." It was moments later that one teacher, Joe Ritchie, heard a student moaning. Worried that something like this might happen someday, he slipped on a bulletproof vest that he had prepared. He opened his door and saw Nick Walchak, who had been shot several times. Having been shot in the spine, he was completely unable to move. Joe Ritchie then pulled Nick into his classroom. He administered first aid and did his best to comfort him. He even let him use his cell phone to call his girlfriend and his parents. Shortly after, TJ was spotted in the halls by Joe Ritchie and another teacher, Frank Hall. The two of them saw that TJ was attempting to load another magazine into his gun and took that chance to chase him out of the building. Scared of the two larger men, TJ took off sprinting out the doors.
Hey, W teachers, bro. Hey, those men right there, smart. Not just brave, but smart. They saw the motherfucker trying to reload, and they were like, okay, yeah, now's our chance to get him the fuck out of here.
Scared of the two larger men, TJ took off sprinting out the doors. The police, still making their way out to the building, got word that the suspect had been chased out of the school. Some arrived at the school with ambulances, while others took off to search for their suspect. Sadie Lane, TJ's younger sister, heard the police say that TJ was their suspect. Not knowing what to believe, she started crying. She didn't believe that it could possibly be him. A teacher brought her into the hall as the police wanted to take her in for questioning. That was when she saw students being carried out of the school on stretchers, still in disbelief that her brother could have done such a thing. However, it would soon after be confirmed. TJ had booked it into some woods near a residential area on Wooden Road not too far from the school. On the way, he had finally managed to reload the gun, dropping the spent magazine along the way. He had only actually made it about 300 feet from the school when the police...
fuck, so he kept the gun. I was really hoping that maybe during that chase, I thought he would have dropped the guns or something, but no, the fact that he still had the gun, that means the danger isn't gone yet, so hopefully no one else dies from this point on in the video. Hopefully.
He had only actually made it about 300 feet from the school when the police caught up to him and found him. He dropped his gun and his knife onto the snow below him, finally giving up. TJ was then taken down to the station and was interrogated for several hours. He began his interrogation still wet from the snow, shivering intensely. After a while, they changed him into some different clothes. He started to explain what happened that day.
Sat down in the cafeteria table and fired first shot through the book bag, and then pulled it out with the knife in my left hand, I think the gun in my right hand, and fired all 10 shots in the clip, and just started running because I didn't want to hurt anybody else.
When asked why it happened, he had no answer.
Why did this happen to you?
I don't even know myself.
Is it something that you've been thinking about for a while?
No, like 2 weeks.
Okay. Was there something that happened 2 weeks ago that kind of...
Nothing. I have no problems with anybody. I don't really talk to many people, so I can't have problems with them.
Throughout the rest of the interrogation, TJ went on to say that he didn't know the students he targeted, that he wasn't bullied, that he had no problems with them, and that he chose them at random. The idea that he didn't know the students he targeted was immediately disputed by other students at the school. They said that not only did many of them know him since middle school, he rode on the bus with a few of them every single day. After hours and hours...
See, so even he denied that he was bullied.
After hours and hours of interrogation, TJ was booked into the Allen Oakwood Correctional Facility. The police, during the middle of all of that, made their way out to TJ's grandparents' home to tell them what had happened. His grandparents were shocked to hear about it, as was his mother when she was notified. "I didn't believe it," his mother Sarah later said. They made their way out to the police station themselves, and that's where they learned that not only TJ, but Sadie was being questioned as well. They all stuck together in an interrogation room where they would stay for several hours. It wasn't very long before the police began raiding TJ's home. His neighbors had never seen anything like that in their quiet area. FBI agents, along with agents from the Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation, quickly closed off part of the road with yellow crime scene tape. As they combed the house, one agent was asked, "What are you looking for?" To which he responded, "Anything and everything." One neighbor who knew the family for 20 years told the media, "I was shocked. It's very heart-wrenching. I cried. I'm praying." Students at the school were sent to nearby schools to be reunited with their families. School had obviously been canceled for the rest of the day, with the superintendent announcing shortly after that there would be no classes the next day either. He did say that counselors would be available at 2 nearby schools the next day if students wanted to talk to someone. They were also scheduling a candlelight vigil for the next evening. TJ's family quickly lawyered up. That lawyer, a man named Bob Farinacci, quickly went into damage control, trying to salvage TJ's reputation somehow. He announced that he was already showing remorse, saying that he was, quote, very, very scared and extremely remorseful.
It's always like so interesting to think about like how these attorneys, okay, it's not confusing what they have to do, it's clear what they have to do, but I always wonder what goes through their head, man. Like you've got to be so morally conflicted inside. At the end of the day, it's their job. I couldn't be able to do it. I would not be able to do it though.
He added, "He is a very confused young man right now. He's very confused. He is very upset. He's very distraught." Speaking of the rest of the family, he said, "This is something that could have never been predicted. TJ's family has asked for some privacy while they try to understand how such a tragedy could have occurred and while they mourn this terrible loss for their community." Russell King Jr. had survived the attack and was taken to the hospital, as was Demetrius.
Russell survived? Wait, what?
Russell King Jr. had survived the attack and was taken.
Russell literally got shot in the head. He was the first target. That's insane. That's good though. What a miracle.
Daniel, however, was pronounced dead at the scene.
Rest in
Nick
peace.
Walczak survived the shooting as well, although unfortunately he was left permanently paralyzed. Joy Rickers was also sent to the hospital to get treatment for her wounds.
So only one death?
Early the next morning, Demetrius died from his injuries in the hospital.
Never mind.
Russell similarly didn't make it. He was declared brain dead shortly after.
Oh, so it was like, oh man. So a very short-lived victory. So Russell initially survived the headshot, but died the next day. Okay, so 3 deaths so far.
Nick was to remain in the hospital for quite some time. Joy Rickers was actually allowed to leave the hospital that day. The governor of Ohio ordered for all flags to be flown at half-mast all throughout the county, as well as at the Ohio State House. Schools were closed all throughout the small town of Chardon, with most in disbelief as to what had happened. When the media found that TJ was actually a student of Lake Academy and didn't actually attend Chardon, the school issued a public statement. It read, "This is devastating for all of us at Lake Academy. We are fully cooperating with the ongoing investigation and trust that the authorities will be able to sort out the facts surrounding the incident." Unlike Chardon, Lake Academy actually did hold classes that day. One of TJ's friends, a girl named Haley Kovacic, said that she was in complete shock at what had happened. She called TJ a very normal, just teenage boy. She said, "He did have a sad look in his eyes a lot of the time, but he talked normally. He never said anything strange. It was a really big shock." Danny Comertz similarly said, "I just can't believe it. I don't think it's real. And it kills me every time that I saw someone hiding and now that someone is now dead." Daniel Parmiter's family briefly spoke about what had happened, giving a statement saying, "Danny was a bright young boy who had a bright future ahead of him. The family is torn by this loss." Many others spoke about the teachers who had chased TJ out of the school only 2 minutes after the shooting had started. Neil Thomas, a student at the school, praised Frank Hall. He said, "Coach Hall, he always talks about how much he cares about us students, his team, and everyone. And today he really went out and he proved how much he cared about us, that he would take a bullet for us." Similar praise was given to Joe Ritchie, who went out into the hall to save Nick. It wasn't long at all before TJ was in court for a preliminary hearing. He had admitted to taking the gun and the knife into school that day and firing a total of 10 rounds, saying that he had picked his victims randomly.
Yeah, whenever there's like teachers like that, or they don't have to be teachers, but whenever there's these brave individuals in these cases that take action against the shooter, I wish, or I hope anyway, that they're rewarded in some way. Like at the very least, some kind of public acknowledgement, like some kind of medal, some kind of, or like at an event, on stage, or hell, even like a bonus. Like I feel like that's the least you can do as a school. Like you had one of your employees put their lives on the line to defend children.
He had admitted to taking the gun and the knife into school that day and firing a total of 10 rounds, saying that he had picked his victims randomly. Judge Timothy J. Grindell asked him if he understood his rights. He replied with a quiet, subdued, "Yes, sir. Yes, I do." TJ was ordered to be held in detention as his charges were formally drafted up. When asked if he would be tried as an adult, prosecutors responded with, "Absolutely. It's a matter of law in the state of Ohio. At 17 years old, committing an attack like this, I guarantee that this was an aberration. This does not represent our community. He chose his victims at random. This is not about bullying. This is not about drugs. This is someone who is not well, and I'm sure, in our court case, we will prove that to all of your desires."
I mean, definitely not Russell. You can argue that maybe from, like, after Russell, maybe it was random, like, who he would target. Like, at that point, he was just shooting to shoot. But the shooting itself was planned, though. That was a premeditated shooting. And he went there knowing what he was going to do. And the first person he killed was indeed targeted, as they found in his notebook. Yeah.
This is someone who is not well, and I'm sure, in our court case, we will prove that to all of your desires, and we will make sure that justice is done in our county. Another court date was set for the next month in March, with a motion filed to transfer TJ to the adult court. When March came, TJ appeared in the Geauga County Juvenile Court on 1 count of aggravated murder, 2 counts of attempted murder, and 1 count of felonious assault. With the families of the victims in front of him, TJ politely answered questions about his charges. He was asked if he was aware of the charges against him, to which he responded, "Yes, I am, Your Honor." TJ's family had now increased his legal team, with 3 attorneys now sitting by his side as he sat emotionless as ever. Documents were filed asking that TJ's family services records be sealed. They said, Lane is already under intense public scrutiny, and releasing any records that relate to his social and/or family history would only magnify the situation for him and his relatives. Another hearing was set for early April that would determine whether or not he would be tried as an adult. If he was, he would most likely be sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole. Ultimately, it was decided that he would. Things were quiet for a while until May. That's when the results of TJ's mental competency evaluation were made known. The judge announced that he was indeed competent to stand trial as an adult. Things ramped up in intensity more in December. This was when many would come to testify for and against TJ in court. Nick, the boy he had paralyzed, had become an advocate for victims and had been speaking publicly about his recovery. He also spoke against TJ at his trial at the Geauga County Common Pleas Court. TJ's parents spoke as well, saying that they were in denial and disbelief as everything went down. Sarah Nolan said, "Not for a minute did I believe it was TJ. Honestly, I thought he was being wrongly accused." TJ's father, Thomas Lane II, spoke as well. He said, "I didn't believe it until the next day. It had to be some kind of a mistake." This was when TJ's parents learned that the statements that they had made while at the police station had been recorded. They were very upset, saying that they didn't know that a device was recording them at the time. TJ's grandmother testified too, saying, "We were in shock. We were all just horrified. We were trying to figure out what was going on." The trial carried on for a while. On February 26, 2013, almost exactly 1 year after the shooting took place, TJ finally agreed to plead guilty to 3 counts of aggravated murder, multiple counts of attempted murder, and felonious assault.
So would you plead guilty again? Yes, Your Honor.
Now he had nothing to do but await his sentencing. It was during his sentencing on March 19, 2013 that TJ would truly become a media spectacle unlike he had ever been before. While in jail, TJ had written the word killer across a white t-shirt by hand, trying to recreate the shirt that he wore on the day of the shooting.
Oh my cringe. Wait, he tried to recreate that killer shirt that he bought on the day of the shooting by literally writing it down on another blank white shirt. Oh my god. Kill yourself, please. Actually, don't kill yourself because I want you to rot in prison.
After he sat down in court, he removed a button-up dress shirt that he was wearing to reveal the killer t-shirt underneath.
Oh, he wore it to court. Dude, oh my.
Feeling that he looked incredibly cool, his attitude quickly turned cocky. He looked all around the room, even at the victims' families, with a big smirk on his face. The judge gave TJ 3 life sentences without parole to be served consecutively. TJ then decided to make a statement to the families of the victims. He looked at them, flipped them off, and said,
Saying pull the trigger to kill your son, you know, masturbates, you know, right?
Right here, you see this pose? All I'm saying, Kirk, I'm just saying that neck is fully exposed right there. For real though, I wish this motherfucker would have got sniped right here like Kirk. He said, "This hand that pulled the trigger to kill your son now to his memory." That's fucking disgusting. To say that to the family of the victim that you killed, these fingers that he's holding up right here, like I would break each finger individually as torture.
While TJ likely thought that this would cement him in history as being one of the coolest criminals of all time, it didn't quite land as well as he thought it would. Many immediately noticed that he was clearly doing all he could to hold back tears while he delivered his clearly rehearsed statement. TJ was then booked into the Allen Correctional Facility. While you may think that TJ's story would end there, that is far, far from being the case.
I'm just gonna say, I hope this motherfucker drops the soap in prison. That's all I'm gonna say. I hope he drops the soap.
An interview with another inmate in the same prison, a man named Steve Bringer, has since been made public. He has detailed many of TJ's experiences while incarcerated, and they aren't good. Steve Bringer met TJ almost as soon as he entered into the prison, with him saying that his entry seemed highly anticipated by the other inmates.
Oh my god, am I gonna be kind of like half right? So the inmates were waiting for him. The inmates were looking forward to his arrival. Oh fuck.
He said that most of the gay inmates went after TJ immediately.
Dude, I heard gay inmates. I knew it was over. I knew it was raps.
He said that most of the gay inmates went after TJ immediately, noting specifically that they liked that he was an acne-riddled teenager.
All the gay dudes, like, were on him as soon as he came in, because for some reason they got a fascination with kids with acne and skinny and little.
Okay, that's still kind of weird. Wait, no, I don't like that though. Fuck the shooter, but that's still weird for the inmates to be saying like, oh yeah, we have a thing for teens with pimples, yeah, like.
They got a fascination with kids with acne and skinny and little. I mean, it's like every fag's dream to have.
Right.
So, they was just showering them with gifts right off the bat.
While TJ did all he could to resist their advances, he didn't last too long. It was soon after his arrival that several of the inmates ganged up on him and all had their way with him at once. This was something that they would brag about for some time after.
Unfortunately, he was attacked by several inmates, and I think that's what made him gay.
So when you say he was attacked, you mean he was...
Like it's fuck him, obviously, like fuck him. He deserves all of the consequences, but let's not cheer on. Oh fuck, this is complicated.
So when you say he was attacked, you mean he was raped by several dudes?
That's supposedly what happened. The guys were bragging about it and stuff.
Steve Bringer had learned that there was a $50,000 bounty on TJ's head in the prison. He decided that he would go ahead and kill him to get some cash. However, when he went over to kill him one night, he said that he started to feel bad for him. He said that in the end, he was just a confused kid with a rough life.
See, fuck that. Like he had a tough household. Like he had a very tough childhood, like with his parents and shit. But like in school, people treated him nice. Like, I mean, come on. Like, no. He was not a confused kid. He was just fucked in the head. That's all. He lost his girl and he snapped.
Most of TJ's life in prison would then consist of playing with Pokemon cards, doing drugs, getting drunk on prison wine, and scrawling the word killer in all caps across his notebooks. In August, TJ was reprimanded for refusing to participate in class in the prison. He complained that studying gave him migraines, and he refused to accept the title of student under any circumstance.
Okay, I think I know how to describe my feelings towards this. Obviously, fuck this dude, fuck this kid. I hate him, and isn't good, but what you're also not gonna get from me is like tears. I'm not gonna be losing sleep over this guy getting R-worded in prison. I'm not cheering it on, but at the same time, I'm not crying about it, you know?
His teacher complained that he absolutely reeked and refused to deal with the smell, and that he spent most of his time writing the word killer and drawing cats. Another infraction was issued that same month, with him still refusing to improve. These same sorts of issues with his in-prison schooling would continue for months. In November, he was caught popping pills, Dilantin to be specific. Dilantin is an anti-epileptic drug that hadn't been prescribed to him. Later, he was also caught peeing on the prison walls. On February 27, 2014, the father of Russell King Jr., TJ's first victim, came to pass away. On the 2-year anniversary of the shooting, he died of an overconsumption of alcohol and a heroin overdose.
Aww.
In a twist of irony, the same had happened to TJ's older brother. Adam, as well, had died of a heroin overdose while TJ was incarcerated.
I feel like that had to have been linked to possible depression from losing his son. Oh yeah, rest in peace to the dad, man.
TJ apparently had a hard time coping with that fact. He started to act up in prison even more. Steve had been able to get his hands on weed while incarcerated and gave TJ a bit of it from time to time. Once he was able to get him some alcohol. After TJ got a little drunk, he opened up to Steve and dropped the emotionless school shooter act for once. Steve said that he spoke of his upbringing and his home life. He came to believe that he wasn't a bad kid. TJ told Steve that his only target at the school was someone who bullied him, likely Russell. He said that he felt bad for one of the other boys he killed, but not for the other. He said that he thought about it all night sometimes. TJ was eventually caught smoking weed. He was also caught getting 3 tattoos on his chest. According to Steve, 2 of the tattoos were related to a fascination he had with pirates. He got the word marooned tattooed across his chest, along with a P for pirate on his right forearm. Steve was unable to remember the third. Eventually, TJ started to accept all of the man-lovin' he was getting in prison. He got into a relationship with a 45-year-old man named Clifford Opperud, who was known around the prison as a bit of a con man. Clifford was halfway through a 12-year sentence he had received for armed robbery, burglary, and kidnapping. The two of them would kiss and be openly affectionate with one another.
Jesus fucking Christ. Yeah, dude, they for real turned his ass gay. Oh my god.
It was after this newfound relationship that the two of them began planning to escape from prison together. They had a calisthenics regiment together that resulted in them training outside together with a third man, 33-year-old Lindsay Bruce. The three of them would go over how they might escape and plan out the logistics of that together. Lindsay had gotten himself a life sentence with no chance of parole after he himself killed a 5-year-old girl. The three planned to gradually collect supplies and pieces of furniture around the prison to build a ladder and scale the wall. TJ would really only get letters from his family, and that was only once in a while. His grandmother was the one who was the most affectionate towards him. His dad would usually talk to him about their shared interests. TJ did get a massive amount of letters from someone else, though. Multiple people, actually. And those were his fangirls. Like most school shooters, TJ ended up with a seemingly endless number of fangirls who were obsessed with him.
What? Okay, first of all, for him to have fangirls is really ironic because, like, he's in prison taking nothing but dick. But secondly, damn, bro, like, even in 2013, this was happening. Like, the romanticization of shooters.
The difference between TJ and the other school shooters, however, was that he was not dead. At first, his boyfriend Clifford would get jealous of the letters he was receiving from these girls. At one point, he even wrote a letter to the parents of the Tumblr girl who had sent TJ one of these letters. It read, "A letter was sent from this address to an inmate in this prison, Thomas M. Lane III, also known as TJ Lane, the Chardon High School shooter, from a young girl who I assume is your daughter named Redacted. I'm sure as her parents you are not aware that your child is attempting to flirt with a prisoner in a maximum security facility, as I'm sure you wouldn't have allowed this to happen. It's not smart for minors to write men in prison, as nothing around here is personal or private. TJ showed me the letter your daughter wrote along with her pictures before he disposed of it. It was amusing to both of us because she seems infatuated with someone who has no remorse for his crimes. I handle all of TJ's letters from fans. We are in a relationship together. Yes, TJ is gay and has no interest in your daughter, so don't worry. A lot of men here try to scam young girls here out of money, so do tell your daughter it is a bad idea for her to try and write these men. We are all here locked up for a very good reason, no matter our ages. TJ may be a young man, but he is proud of what he has done and has no compassion. Anytime anyone under 18 writes him, I do them a favor and let their parents know so it won't happen again. 16-year-old girls got no business writing men in prison, especially not homosexual ones like my boyfriend Thomas Lane.
Oh my god. The 45-year-old wrote this, right? Out of jealousy?
While Clifford was clearly very jealous in this letter, TJ didn't actually turn down the gifts he had received. He got so much stuff from these girls that he had Steve and his old cellmate William answer his fan letters as a sort of side gig. Little did these girls know they were actually corresponding with middle-aged men. TJ then decided to tell the girls that he needed money. He got that along with food, clothes, shoes, boots, and media time from them. At one point, after word got out online that he was gay thanks to this
I'm fucking done. I'm fucking done. These girls will idolize anything. Holy fuck. And it's just out of edginess, bro. I saw somebody in chat say like, oh, he's not even attractive. It's not about being attractive. It's shock factor. It's being edgy. Let me put these sparkles and hearts on him.
At one point, after word got out online that he was gay thanks to this letter, Tumblr girls started making fun of TJ. Somehow he heard about all of this, probably from one of his fangirls, and managed to call one of the girls who called him a sub-bottom. He gave her a very angry piece of his mind.
Hi, this is TJ Lane. I've heard you've been saying some shit about me on your blog, and I appreciate that. For your information, I have clean skin, and I'm not a sub-bottom, whatever you say. I like women. I respond to all the hot girls that write me. Fuck you, you bitch, whatever.
Bro, even that sounded so fruity.
Fuck you, you bitch, whatever.
Whatever.
As TJ, Clifford, and Lindsay Bruce continued to plan their escape, TJ decided that he would enlist the help of one of his fangirls to pick him and Clifford up. TJ and Clifford had a secret part of the plan that nobody knew, though. Lindsay was only a temporary means to an end for them. According to Steve, they didn't plan on letting him live as soon as they escaped. This means that things didn't bode well for the fangirl either.
Yeah, that was their plan, supposedly. Supposedly they were going somewhere down south, and they were, well, I'll leave that part out. Lindsay Bruce was never supposed to be with them. We'll just say that, if anybody can read between the lines.
On September 11th, 2014, the now 19-year-old TJ, Clifford, and Lindsay decided to put their plan into action. They put together a ladder that they had been gradually building with supplies from around the prison. They had hidden this ladder in a crawl space out of view from the cameras. They put the ladder up against the prison fence and used it to climb on top of a building. From there, they scaled down the other side of the fence. After scaling the wall, they hopped down and ran into a soybean field nearby before escaping into the forest. TJ and Clifford got their wish of getting rid of Lindsay without having to kill him themselves. He was captured almost immediately within moments of getting out of the prison, not far from the building itself. TJ managed to evade the police for between 5 and 6 hours. In that time, a wanted poster was drafted up for him. However, in another major stroke of irony, much like when he escaped the school, he had again only gotten about 300 feet away from the prison. He was hiding in the woods near a church, waiting for the heat to die down, when the police captured him with the help of a police dog and took him back at 1:20 a.m. It took a little longer to find Clifford, with him getting the furthest from the prison. Eventually, with the help of an infrared camera mounted on a police helicopter, they were able to find him hiding under a boat in a residential area. At around 4:20 a.m., another dog helped flush him out. With that, all 3 men were recaptured and sent back to prison. After a while, all 3 of them were taken to a different prison. While they were in maximum security before, they would now be in a supermax prison, the Ohio State Penitentiary. They were to be put in solitary confinement for up to 23 hours a day.
Now that's actual torture right there. Solitary confinement for 23 hours, basically the entire day, multiple days at a time. That's the type of shit I like to see. Like, I don't think you guys understand how much of a toll that takes on your mental, on your sanity. That's what I like to see right there.
DMT 3 hours a day. They had been planning the escape for nearly a year at that point, seeing that they had gained access to the crawl space and had been secretly making a 14-foot ladder from pieces of old cabinets found in restricted areas of the prison. Clifford Opperud found himself back in court, being the only of the 3 men who wasn't serving a life sentence without parole already when they escaped. While he had originally been set to be released in 2023, he was given an additional 5 years on top of his original sentence. He was then set to be released in 2028, but his prison tenure wouldn't end there. Upon release, he will be transferred to Florida, where he is wanted for even more crimes. TJ was later sent to the Chillicothe Correctional Institution, where he remains to this day.
Holy fuck, bro transformed into an even bigger looking troll. Like, he looks like a troll now.
TJ was later sent to the Chillicothe Correctional Institution, where he remains to this day. Even up until this point, the CCTV footage of TJ carrying out his attack on the school, despite being mentioned in numerous news sources, has never leaked. It likely never will leak, given that there are laws put in place to prevent the leak of crime scene photos and videos when minors are involved. Some still doubt the story that TJ committed the shooting as a result of his fallout with his ex-girlfriend and his jealousy of Russell, as TJ himself has never fully admitted to it. There is plenty of circumstantial evidence to support the story, however, along with many statements from other students. He had written his poem on Facebook shortly after the time they were said to have broken up. He had started working out and posting his progress pictures shortly after that as well. The real icing on the cake are the 2 photos he took with the large Valentine's Day teddy bear. Then we have what he told Steve Bringer in prison, that he had gone after a boy who had bullied him, which directly contradicts all of his claims that he didn't know the victims and picked them at random.
Oh, yeah. Even without him confessing that, it was very obvious. Like, his spiral into madness, into evilness, it started literally after he lost his ex.
And the only one denying the story is TJ, and it's unlikely he will ever be honest about it. It seems he would rather have the street cred of being a ruthless killer instead, as he has put forth a lot of effort to maintain that image. TJ will never get out of prison, unless by some miracle—
Asmongold, what are you doing here?
TJ will never get out of prison, unless by some miracle he tries to escape again and actually succeeds. Time will tell. Once again, thank you for watching my video.
That's the end of that video right there. Him, bro. TJ, I hope he's spending the rest of his days miserable in prison, especially for that bullshit that he did in the courtroom, flipping off the parents, saying that he off to the memory of their dead son. Like, you can tell when somebody is forcing a type of behavior, and you can 1000% tell that this kid, he spent the entire previous night in the mirror reciting that shit, just practicing over and over and over again in the mirror. Like, yeah, I'm gonna say this, I'm gonna give him the finger after, it's gonna be so sick. Yeah, so I'm glad that his ass is now spending the rest of his life behind bars. And rest in peace to all of the victims, to Russell's dad. I 1000% believe that Russell's dad committed suicide as a result of his depression of losing his child. So yeah, rest in peace to Russell's dad, rest in peace to the other victims in the school. Anyway, that's it. Thank you so much for watching, YouTube. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.